In 11 minutes, a sacred journey. Join us in powerful prayer for heavenly healing confirmed. The village square shimmered as the sun dipped behind the ancient oak tree, casting long shadows on the cobblestone path. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, whispering promises of divine presence. Grace stood amidst the villagers, her heart pounding with anticipation. Tonight, they would join hands in powerful prayer like never before. A miracle hung in the air, waiting, each face illuminated by candlelight glowed with hope. Grace could see it in their eyes, the flickering flames mirrored the steadfast faith brewing in their hearts. Tonight, we ask for healing, she began, her voice soft yet bold. For David, my husband. Gasps echoed around her. Soft murmurs of agreement sprouted like flowers blossoming in the spring. Together, they had journeyed through countless Sundays under the comforting arms of their beloved pastor. Last year, his sermons had ignited the hearts of the villagers, his gut-wrenching tales of triumph through prayer had woven a tapestry of spirituality embellished with faith and community. But now, despair coated the village like mist. David's illness had left Grace reeling, almost drowning beneath the weight of uncertainty. Dread hung heavily in her heart as she thought of all that had been lost, until she chose faith, choosing to gather them together in fervent expectation. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air grew thick as she led them in prayer, arms raised high, her voice trembling with both faith and fear. Lord, show us your power. Reveal your mighty hand. We believe in healing tonight. The villagers joined in a chorus, echoing her words with growing intensity, the ground beneath their feet almost vibrating with divine electricity. A warmth enveloped Grace, a sensation so profound it felt like a glimpse into heaven. Tears glistened in her eyes as she felt the palpable presence of God. As they entered the final moments of prayer, an astonishing chill swept through the crowd, gentle yet striking. The candles flickered wildly as if responding to a heavenly breeze. Grace's heart raced. Could this be a sign? Just then, her phone buzzed with an unexpected urgency. Silence fell across the gathering as she glanced down. A text from a family member flashed. David is showing surprising signs of improvement. Doctors are baffled. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Gratitude surged in Grace's heart, flooding her spirit with warmth pierced through the darkness of despair. Joy erupted. She had led them to pray for a miracle and, perhaps tonight, it had begun to unfold, but questions loomed. Was this divine intervention? Or mere coincidence? The villagers stood united yet wrestling with doubt. In the warm glow of the candles, Grace faced an unfathomable choice. The future felt heavy with promise but unsure of its path. All around, the answers beckoned, lost in the sacred mystery that united them. Where would faith take them next? The air still crackled with the aftershocks of the prayer. As Grace lifted her tear-stained face, she looked around, her heart swelling with pride for her community. Each villager, their eyes bright with renewed hope, stood on the precipice of faith. They could feel a change, an unseen intertwining of their collective spirit reverberating against the universe. With a deep breath, Grace addressed them again. We must not rush. We have witnessed a spark tonight, and we need to nurture it. Her words were met with encouraging nods and murmurs of agreement. The urge to press on was strong, yet Grace felt the weight of time. Was this moment a beginning or simply an echo of something larger yet to unfold? Let us share our stories, she suggested, her voice gentle but firm. Each of us has faced struggles. Let us speak them aloud, for there is a power in our testimonies. The villagers began to step forward, each compelled to share their journey, weaving threads of pain and resilience into the tapestry that bound them together. First, an elder named Samuel spoke, his voice deep yet quivering with emotion. I lost my son 2 years ago. I thought I'd never find joy again. But prayer carried me through the darkest nights. God has shown me that even in loss, His love remains. I stand here tonight, a testament to His unwavering grace. With each spoken word, the village thrummed with a pulse of unity. Stories began to flow like rivers, each carrying its weight, some heavy with sorrow, while others sparkled with joy. A mother shared how her daughter had persevered through illness, defying the odds through a miracle of faith. A young man recounted his battle with despair and how he had found solace in the prayers of his friends. The atmosphere swelled in richness, each testimony igniting flickers of light in hearts long shrouded by doubt. Grace felt as if heaven itself had descended, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Yet, the warmth of hope brought with it an unraveling realization. In the depths of her joy, doubt still lingered. Would their shared faith be enough to sustain the miracle they had dared to pray for? Were they prepared for whatever might come now that the doors of healing had been cracked just slightly ajar? As the stories grew, so did the sense of anticipation. The energy was tangible, an electric current that shimmered in the cool night air. Just as Grace began to feel a sense of direction, a sudden gust of wind swept through the square. The candles flickered violently, casting eerie shadows on the stones. Gasps rose as a figure approached from the edge of the gathering, shrouded in the dim light. A calmness wrapped around the stranger, yet an urgency pulsed in his step. Grace's heart raced. Who was this individual? What word of encouragement or challenge did he carry with him? "Behold, a new season dawns upon you," he declared, his voice resonating like thunder. Excitement and apprehension washed over the crowd as they turned to face him fully. The fabric of the evening shifted as they all awaited his next words. Grace could feel the collective breath of the crowd hitch, a communal anticipation hanging in the air. What revelation might this stranger bring? Where would this new chapter lead them? The stranger stood before them, framed by flickering candlelight. His face, partly hidden in the shadow, bore the marks of a deep understanding, a wisdom born of trials. The crowd leaned in, their hope and dread tangled together like threads in the fabric of their shared experience. "Tonight is a turning point," he continued, his voice unwavering amidst the descent of darkness. "You have gathered in the face of despair, united by faith. This is no small thing. God hears your cries." A wave of murmurs rippled through the villagers, a mixture of disbelief and anticipation. Grace felt the earth beneath her feet shift slightly, the air crackled with possibility. She could see the spark in their eyes, igniting a fire within her own. "What is this new season?" Someone called out from the back, a tremor of desperation in their voice. The stranger stepped closer, his gaze softening. "It is a season of healing. A season where your faith will be tested, yes, but also where it will bloom. Are you ready to embrace what lies ahead?" A silence swept over the crowd, a sacred stillness that allowed their hearts to speak. Grace's pulse quickened as she felt both fear and joy coiling like a vine around her spirit. She could sense the divine moment hovering, a thick veil ready to part. With a nod, she found her voice, steady and true. "We are ready," she proclaimed. "We've shared our sorrows and our victories. We trust in the power of prayer, and we are willing to stand together in this fight." "Good," the stranger replied, his expression brightening. "Your willingness to believe is your strength. But know that faith is not merely a whisper in the shadows, it is a shout in the storm." The villagers responded. A swell of amens rose, echoing like a chorus from their hearts. Grace felt invigorated, the energy around them morphing from fear to fierce determination. As the stranger raised his hands, the stars above sparkled brightly, and a gentle breeze swept through the square like the breath of God. "Let us pray together, one last time," he urged. "Let us call forth the healing we crave, the reconciliation of our souls, the restoration of what has been lost." They gathered, hands clasping together, a chain of faith, each individual heart beating in rhythm. Grace's heart soared. She sensed the Spirit moving among them, running like a river through each of their lives. "Lord," the stranger began, "we come united, grateful for the light of your love, standing firm against the darkness of doubt. We seek healing, transformation, and renewal. May your will be done among us." The prayer flowed like honey, rich and sweet. The villagers added their voices, their words intertwining like vines reaching toward the heavens. Grace poured her heart into each plea, each cry for healing and guidance. In that moment, nothing seemed impossible. Then, as if answering their collective voice, a brilliant light burst forth from the heavens. It bathed the square in golden warmth. Gasps broke out as everyone shielded their eyes from the brilliance, a miracle unfolding before them. "Look!" The stranger shouted, his voice echoing above the awestruck crowd. Your healing is here. Embrace it. But as the light pulsed and shimmered, weaving ethereal patterns in the night, Grace's heart quickened with another thought. Was this truly the manifestation of their hopes? Or was this merely the beginning of something even greater? The light shone brighter, and Grace felt it calling her, pulling her deeper into the mystery of what lay beyond. She glanced at her neighbors, their faces reflecting the same wonder and fear. Were they ready for what this moment might unleash? With the weight of both urgency and hope hanging heavy in the air, Grace felt an irresistible pull toward the unknown. What would they encounter next on this journey of the spirit? The light enveloped the villagers, drawing them closer as if it had a will of its own. Grace felt a flutter within her, a combination of fear and joy coursing through her veins. It was a feeling as if God Himself were reaching out, crafting a connection so potent it could not be ignored. Do not shy away. The stranger encouraged, his voice surging with fervor. This is the time to embrace the power of divine love. Remember, your faith will guide you through the unknown. The villagers inched forward, eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. They could sense the holy presence in that glowing light, yet they were tethered by a natural trepidation. Grace, driven by a newfound courage, stepped ahead. Her heart pounded heavy but hopeful. What if it hurts? Whispered a voice from the crowd, a soft concern breaking through the exhilaration. It resonated with the unspoken thoughts of many, questions swirling in their minds like leaves in the autumn wind. Sometimes, healing demands the shedding of old skin, the stranger replied, his gaze unflinching. It requires letting go. Are you willing to release your burdens to experience God as promise? Grace raised her arms toward the light, a gesture of surrender. Yes. She declared. We are ready. We will not turn back. Her voice rang clear in the cool, crisp evening air. It cut through the uncertainty like a beacon guiding a lost ship. With each collective affirmation, the light pulsed in rhythm, a heartbeat that brought unity. The energy shifted, it grew more palpable, swirling and surging through the crowd. It was as if time folded around them, and the world outside fell away, leaving only vibrant life in that ethereal glow. Let your hearts be open. The stranger urged, his hands still raised. In this moment, fear must not have the final word. Feel the warmth of hope wrapping around you. Grace's skin tingled as the warmth enveloped her. She could feel it reaching for her spirit. Tears welled in her eyes, drifting down like gentle rain. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, embracing the moment. Then, the light shifted dramatically, casting shadows that danced like flickering flames. Whispers filled the air, insistent, powerful voices mingling together as if a melody had begun to unfurl. It began softly, a gentle murmur, before transforming into a chorus, blending each heart's longing. Together, we lift our voices. The stranger proclaimed, now filled with passion. For it is through our unity that we shall discover the heights of our faith. Guided by an unseen force, the villagers joined hands, forming an unbreakable chain. The sound of their voices rose, echoing towards the heavens, each note an urgent plea for healing, deliverance, and renewal. Grace felt the connection deepen, hearts beating in collective prayer. And what if we do not receive our answers? Another voice from the back called out, tinged with uncertainty. The question lingered, heavy as a stone. Trust. Trust is the river that carries us, even when we cannot see the end, the stranger reassured them, his eyes fixed on the glowing orb above. The answer may not look as you expect, but God's ways are perfect, weaving hope through even the darkest of trials. At that moment, a spark flew through the light, a brilliance that caught Grace's eye and held her gaze captive. Within that divine radiance, she could feel something shifting not just outside but within her very soul. Her heart swelled further, inflating with a mixture of fervent hope and unyielding faith. Could this truly be the dawn of something magnificent? What lay beyond this veil of light, and what would their journeys reveal? As the light pulsed one more time, Grace felt the boundaries of her spirit bending toward an awakening yet uncharted. She took a deep breath, ready to step forward into the unknown. What transformations awaited them in this season of healing? How would each of their lives be touched in ways they had yet to comprehend? The questions hung in the air, electrifying and inviting. This was only the beginning. As Grace stood there, her heart racing beneath the gentle lap of divine warmth, she felt the air around her shimmer with possibilities. The glowing light pulsed in front of her, a rhythmic beacon drawing her in. Each beat felt like an invitation, a promise that they were on the precipice of something life-changing. One by one, the villagers mirrored her resolve. Their faces, glowing with both trepidation and excitement, lifted toward the marvel of light. The stranger watched them all, a smile of encouragement playing at the corners of his mouth. "Let your burdens flow like autumn leaves in a stream," he directed, his voice rich and commanding. "Release them now. Cast away what no longer serves you." With that, an incredible sound began to rise from the gathered people, a soft but unmistakable resonance as they aligned their hearts with the stranger's words. Grace's eyes fluttered open, and she looked around at the group. Faces that had once been lined with worry were now bright with a fragile, budding hope. She felt the electric charge in the air, and her own hopes intertwined with those around her, creating a web of anticipation. In their unity, they became more than a mere gathering, they became a vessel for divine grace. "Let us lift our voices together," she cried, the warmth of conviction filling her. In an instant, a chorus of voices erupted, a tapestry of strengths and weaknesses woven together, each note bearing witness to their faith. The light shimmered with approval, and Grace watched as the glow grew brighter, illuminating even the darkest corners of doubt within the villagers. Every heartfelt note echoed around them, creating a circle of sound and spirit that somehow felt complete. Amidst the reverberating song, Grace noticed an elderly woman at the edge of the crowd, tears streaming down her cheeks. It struck her, the depth of this moment was greater than mere physical manifestation. Some were singing for their lost loved ones, while others cried for healing or reconciliation. What if a low whisper echoed in Grace's mind? What if our cries are being heard? As if responding to her unspoken question, the air trembled, and the light shifted, revealing slight figures within it, shadows draped in brilliance, reaching out with open arms. The stranger had said trust would lead them forward, and trust became the compass guiding their hearts. "Embrace your stories," he called, a fervent plea tugging at them. "Each note you sing is your declaration for deliverance. Let it resound into the heavens." With every new moment, Grace felt herself sinking deeper into a sublime connection. This wasn't just an experience, it was a deep communion, a shared prayer that transcended individual fears and rose collectively to meet the divine. As time slowed, they lingered in this sacred union, knowing they were on the brink of something profound. But despite the tone of reverence enveloping them, a subtle undercurrent of apprehension remained. Would this be enough? Was their faith strong enough to penetrate the veil between their humble existence and the divine? Amidst the emotional swell, each villager faced their own spiritual reckoning. Grace could almost hear the flicker of uncertainties beneath the surface, like glimmers of light struggling to break free from the clouds. "Be strong in your faith." The stranger's voice pulled them back, firm yet tender. "What is given will not break, and those who stand united will witness the glory." The light pulsed again, brighter, igniting an inner fire amongst the congregation. Yet still, Grace felt a whisper of doubt stirring within, curling around her stronger resolve. Could faith really carve a path through uncertainty? What would ultimately manifest from this powerful moment of connection? And so it beckoned. Like a siren's call from afar, the mystery of the unfolding miracle loomed larger before them, filling Grace and the villagers alike with wonder. What would the next moments reveal? What new truths would emerge as they waded deeper into the unknown heavenly embrace? As they sang on, the air thick with prayers and hopes, they stood at a threshold, ready to embrace whatever God had in store for them. In those sacred seconds, they teetered on the edge of awe, and revelation awaited beyond the light. The light pulsed one last time, almost as if it were breathing with them, and in that moment of collective worship, Grace felt something shift. A warm breeze enveloped them, caressing their skin, carrying whispers of comfort from the divine. Her heart swelled, not just with hope but with a dawning realization. They were about to embark on a journey that would change not only their lives but the very fabric of their village. The stranger stepped forward, his presence commanding yet gentle. "Now, my beloveds, trust your hearts. Let the doubts fall away like shadows before the sun." His eyes sparkled with an intensity that inspired courage. "In this divine moment, each of you must claim your truth. What do you seek?" Grace glanced around at the villagers, their faces transformed by the glow of the light and the embodiment of their desires. The elderly woman wiped her tears away, revealing a look of resolve. A young man clasped his hands tight, his knuckles turning white with expectation. Each villager was engaged in a silent prayer, unspoken yet powerful, a tapestry of longings suspended in the air. "Speak your desires into the light," cried the stranger. "Let the heavens hear what moves your spirit. We are here not just to receive but to declare. Today, you are not just observers, you are catalysts for change." With those words, an electric surge ran through the crowd. Grace closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She felt an urge to speak, no, to shout. "I seek healing for my mother. I call for peace in our hearts." The words slipped from her lips, pulling the energy around her tighter. The villagers, inspired by her boldness, started to vocalize their earnest prayers. Voices swelled and mingled, transforming into a heartfelt symphony resonating through the air. Freedom from fear. Restoration for broken families. Hope for our weary hearts. Each declaration was a feather, rising higher and higher into the ethereal light, creating a chorus that seemed to dance with life. As the chorus grew louder, the ground trembled softly beneath them. The light intensified, swirling in colors they hadn't seen before, a brilliant array of gold, violet, and azure. Each hue seemed to resonate with their words, amplifying their intentions towards the heavens. Grace opened her eyes, awed by the sight. She could see that the ambience had changed. It felt alive, as if their prayers were not only heard but cherished. The mysterious figures within the light began to take form, their flowing garments glistening radiantly. They approached the crowd with gentle, welcoming smiles. Grace felt a familiar warmth pool around her heart. "Look," she whispered to the woman beside her, tears falling freely down her cheeks again, this time mingled with joy. The stranger noticed the collective awe and smiled. "These are the manifestations of your faith. Your prayers are being received. Each note of devotion is a stepping stone toward the divine embrace." His voice became more profound, echoing throughout the glade. "But with this blessing comes responsibility. It is time to act on your faith." The villagers paused, their hearts fluttering with questions. What could they possibly do? What was required of them now? The air was thick with a longing to understand, and amidst their questions, an unmistakable sense of something beautiful unfolding surrounded them. Grace looked at the glowing figures, instinctively knowing that they would reveal something crucial in due time. "What is next, Lord?" she murmured, beseeching the light, feeling the weight of expectation heavy upon her. Would the illumination before them bring clarity or more questions? Around her, faith flickered like a candle, illuminating pathways of possibilities. The moment held its breath, waiting for each villager to step forward in trust and surrender, to allow the divine to guide them forth. In those fleeting seconds, she sensed an avalanche of transformation stirring, poised to sweep away uncertainty. As the light pulsed again, deeper questions hung in the air. Would they find the courage to embrace the change coming their way? Would their faith be steadfast enough to carry them through the transformation waiting just beyond their grasp? The next moments held promise and mystery, a tantalizing blend of apprehension and excitement. What revelations awaited as they crossed into deeper realms of faith? The light shimmered and pulsed again, as if urging the villagers to find their voices anew. Grace took a deep breath, her heart drumming in her chest. The glowing figures began to whisper amongst themselves, their ethereal laughter mixing with the wind. What messages did they carry? What wisdom could they impart? As she stood there, caught in the moment, she saw one figure step forward. This one had a radiant silver crown resting on their head, symbolizing both guidance and authority. "Beloved children of the light," they said, their voice like a soothing balm, "your cries have risen to the heavens, and compassion flows towards you like a river." The villagers leaned in closer, fueled by wonder. The shimmering form continued, "Your desires have been heard, but transformation requires action. Faith must be lived, it cannot remain idle in the heart." A ripple of understanding flowed through Grace as she pondered this. Was it enough to only speak their desires? Would they need to take real steps towards the changes they sought? To walk in faith, the figure explained, you must seek the good not just for yourselves but for one another. Your village holds the keys to its own healing. Dig deep into your love for each other, share your burdens, and let your community uplift those in need. A murmur of recognition swept through the group. Grace felt the warmth in her chest expanding once more, suddenly realizing the truth of their unity. They were stronger together. Just as the rich tapestry of their voices had created a song, their lives could intertwine in mutual support, weaving threads of hope and healing. "I will help the widow next door who struggles alone," the elderly woman cried out, her voice carrying passion. "I shall cook meals for families in need," another villager declared, his resolve evident in his stance. In that moment, as each individual began to share how they would contribute, the air charged with light and electricity. The shimmering figures smiled wider, nodding as if affirming each pledge that echoed in the glade. Grace joined in, her heart resolute. "I will help heal our mother by sharing love and light with my family." As the waves of intention cascaded among them, the once overwhelming fears began to melt away. They were transforming from mere dreamers into active participants in the divine plan. Suddenly, the silver-crowned figure pointed towards the rising sun. "Your time is now. Each act of kindness ignites the light, each prayer propels your purpose." With that, the light around them surged brighter. Grace could feel a shift in the very fabric of the air, as if new possibilities were unfurling around them. The villagers were no longer just standing in anticipation, they were stepping into their divine roles. Yet, as Grace turned towards the horizon, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her mind. What obstacles awaited them? Would they be able to maintain their newfound fervor when faced with challenges? Could their faith endure through tests that would surely come? In that moment, the light pulsed again, and she heard something in the whispers, something both joyful and haunting. A question hung in the air, a tender mystery to explore. Will you trust in the love that binds you, even when shadows cast doubt on your path? The villagers looked at one another, a collective breath shared among them. Grace felt the weight of the inquiry, teasing the edges of her heart. What would their answer reveal when faced with the inevitable trials of faith? With hearts ready to embrace the journey ahead, they stood at the precipice of something sacred, knowing it would require bravery, unity, and unwavering belief. What were they truly willing to sacrifice for the love of their village? What depths of faith would they explore as they took this monumental step forward? As the shimmering figures resonated with the villagers' commitments, the atmosphere crackled with an energetic vibrancy. Grace took a moment to breathe deeply, allowing the warmth of their united intentions to wrap around her like a comforting cloak. She locked eyes with the silver-crowned figure, whose gaze seemed to pierce through the veil of uncertainty that lingered in her heart. "Remember," the figure said, tilting its head slightly, "the love and light you share will be your shield during harder times." A profound stillness enveloped the glade, and each villager hung on the promise whispered into the air. They couldn't see the struggles that were coming, but they could sense them, lurking like shadows at the edges of their community. Then, a gentle breeze swept through the clearing, carrying with it the scent of blooming wildflowers. An elderly man stepped forward, his hands trembling but his eyes alight with determination. "Together, we shall rise against any darkness. We are woven together as a fabric, strong enough to withstand storms." His voice ignited a spark. One by one, the villagers began stepping forward, each proclaiming their own vow to serve, to help, to nurture. Grace watched in awe as their words painted a picture of thriving unity. "I will create a community garden," shouted a woman with a vibrant smile, her hands raised high. "Through shared toil, we will share in each other's harvest." Amidst the declarations, Grace felt her heart swelling, gratitude spilling over. Yet, doubt whispered at the edges of her mind. What if their new commitments led them to heartache? What if their efforts were met with hardship? That whisper gnawed at her, but she pushed it down, focusing instead on the radiant light enveloping them. The silver-crowned figure seemed to sense Grace's turmoil and approached her gently, its presence radiating warmth. "Fear not, dear child. Indeed, challenges will come. But remember, each moment of doubt is an opportunity to deepen your trust in one another, and in the divine." With that reassurance, the villagers erupted into laughter and shouts of affirmation, their spirits lifting like the rising sun illuminating the valley below. They began to chant a simple prayer of unity, their voices rising in harmony. "Together we stand. Together we rise." Each word carried an echo of hope, building a bridge between their fears and the love that they pledged to share. Grace felt her own voice join in, swelling with a realization they were indeed embarking on a sacred journey, hand in hand, heart to heart, but suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd as a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. It was a stranger, clad in worn clothes, face shadowed by the brim of a weathered hat. The villagers' chanting faltered, eyes turning to the newcomer, uncertainty creeping back into the atmosphere. Grace took a step forward instinctively, curiosity mingled with apprehension. As the stranger lifted their head to speak, silence wrapped around them like a cocoon. "I've heard your intentions, your commitment to each other. Will you welcome not just those who are easy to love, but also those who might challenge your very faith?" The question hung heavy in the air, stirring the hearts of the villagers once more. Would they be able to open their arms to this unexpected presence? In that moment, Grace felt the weight of collective apprehension, yet also the flicker of possibility. Could this be a test of their newfound unity? Feeling a spark of courage within her, Grace glanced at the faces around her. Their expressions mirrored a tangled mix of hope and fear. As the stranger stood waiting for their response, she wondered if this was the first real challenge to their vows and what they might learn about love through it all. Or would they rise to meet it? Or would they shrink back into the comfort of their own fears? The sacred journey had just begun, and with it came the promise of transformation they never could have imagined. How would they choose to embrace this stranger in their community, and what could it reveal about the depths of their faith? The stranger's gaze scanned the crowd, and Grace could feel the weight of that piercing look resting on her. There was a tension in the air, an unspoken question that hovered among the villagers. One by one, their faces began to shift, uncertainty giving way to determination, fear melting into compassion. "Will you welcome me?" the stranger asked again, voice steady yet soft, as though it were a gentle hand reaching out. The villagers shifted, exchanging glances laden with unspoken thoughts. "Welcome," Grace breathed, feeling it resonate deep within. A warmth blossomed in her heart. What if, instead of fear, they chose openness? What if this stranger held a lesson wrapped in whispers of hope? Suddenly, an older woman took a step forward. Her gnarled hands shook slightly, but her eyes burned bright with an inner fire. "You seek welcome?" she called out, her voice a blend of strength and kindness. "Then join us. We are learning to love together. We can be a shelter for each other." That simple yet profound invitation hung in the air, weaving through the gathering like a gentle breeze. Mutual understanding began to spread, and one by one, the villagers moved closer, forming an unbroken circle of connection. Grace felt a lightness, as if the burdens of doubt were lifting. A young man stepped up next, his posture confidently straight. "I may have doubted before, but let love guide my heart." He extended a hand towards the newcomer. "You are welcome here, friend. Together, we will learn how to embrace each other fully, with all our stories." The stranger tilted their head, revealing a flicker of gratitude in their eyes. The villagers began to nod, murmurs of agreement rippling through the group. It was a moment of collective acknowledgement. They had chosen acceptance over apprehension. Grace felt the strands of their bond strengthening, understanding flowing between them like a river. "What is your name?" she finally asked the stranger, her heart brimming with a sweet blend of anticipation and welcome. "Eli," the stranger replied softly, their voice carrying a weighty truth. "I have journeyed far, seeking the light of community. The world is filled with shadows, but light shines forth through love." In that moment, the silver-crowned figure who had guided their previous vows stepped closer, radiating an aura of acceptance. "Eli carries wisdom," it proclaimed, its voice like melodic chimes. "Embrace the journey that unfolds before you, for in welcoming him, you will uncover layers of love you never knew existed." There was a profound stillness as this divine presence spoke. Grace felt shivers run down her spine, her spirit stirred by the revelation. She sensed that the very essence of their unity was being tested, yet it had emerged brighter and stronger in the face of uncertainty. "Let us share a meal together," called another villager, breaking the silence. The suggestion swept through the crowd, excitement igniting in the air. They could not heal the world in one moment, but they could begin right here, sharing food, stories, and perhaps, healing hearts. They quickly hurried to prepare, laughter erupting once more. Grace helped bring food from her home, her heart light. She felt the spark of a new beginning, realizing the courage it took to expand their love beyond their familiar circle. As they gathered for the shared meal, Grace glanced at Eli, who stood surrounded by warmth, acceptance etching itself into his face. She thought of the silver-crowned figure S-words and the beauty of unknown journeys ahead, but just as laughter began to fill the space, a distant rumble resonated from the valley beyond. It was a sound both wild and fierce, echoing uncertainty yet again within them. What trials might come on the breeze? Would they be prepared to stand united? So many questions emerged, mingled with the promise of a deeper understanding of faith and love. Grace looked around the table, curiosity thickening the air, excitement fluttering in her heart. What lay beyond this feast? Could they hold fast to their unity in the face of turbulent winds? And as they shared their meal, a new chapter of their sacred journey awaited, one filled with revelations and transformations, unfolding slowly before them. Would they truly be able to weather the coming storm together? As the hearty laughter echoed around the village square, warmth radiated from the gathering like a holy fire. Grace looked at Eli, whose face was now bright with kindness. There, surrounded by familiar faces, she sensed a strength deepening amongst them. It was as if the very fabric of their community was being woven anew, stitch by stitch, created not just from shared sorrow, but from an undeniable commitment to love. Together we rise. Someone shouted, and cheers erupted once more, sweeping through the villagers like a wave. Hope had taken root, entwining itself around their depths of doubt. But then the distant rumble returned, a reminder of uncertainties lurking just beyond their horizon. A hush fell over the congregation again. Grace shared knowing glances with Eli, and understanding that trials would come, but not without their dedicated faith and the miracles already stirring in their midst. With hearts heavier yet emboldened, they finished preparing for their meal, feeling a sense of anticipation and resolve. As they gathered around the table, Grace felt an energy in the air, a pulsing reminder of their earlier vows. She raised a glass. To unity and healing. To the bonds that hold us strong. The cheers that followed echoed like a sacred chant, intertwining with the sound of plates clattering in joyful chatter. Sharing food, sharing stories soon turned into sharing dreams and wishes, connecting them in a way none had imagined. Just hours before, Eli stood to share his heart, a humble smile resting upon his lips. You welcomed me without question. Know this, your courage to embrace not only light but also shadows will define your legacy. What we do now will ripple far beyond this night. Grace's heart soared, each word wrapping around her spirit like a belt of protection. Could it be that in helping others, they would find answers to their own questions? Could love indeed break down walls they didn't know existed? Another distant rumble sounded, but this time, it didn't instill fear. It brought a kind of anticipation, a beacon leading them forward into the unknown. With each shared story, the villagers were delving deeper into their souls. The real healing, Grace thought, is happening within us. A sudden wave of inspiration coursed through her. Let us plan something together. Grace continued, her voice resonating with passion. What if we create a community effort, a way to not just support each other, but to reach out into the wider world? We can hold gatherings for prayer, companionship, and outreach. Eli nodded, encouraging the passion in her words. What will be the first step? We begin now. Let us help each other organize a day of giving. Grace proclaimed. Food, clothes, joy, gifts to share with those lonely, those anew to our village. We'll open our doors and arms wide. A wave of agreement washed over them, excitement bubbling with each new suggestion that poured forth. By the time the meal ended, laughter had paved the way to deeper understanding. Their love had become an effervescent spring, ready to overflow into the community. As the sun dipped low, casting a gentle glow upon them, something shifted. A sudden breeze enveloped them, carrying with it whispers from the divine. It felt as if heaven itself wrapped around their little square. Embrace one another, remember this moment, Eli invited gently, for this is the heart of community, to share, to uplift. Together, we will shine brighter than the darkness ever could. But then, a crack of thunder erupted in the distance. Instinctively, their hearts froze. The time for confrontation had come, rippling beyond love and light and now beckoning them to witness the strength of their newfound commitment. Do not falter. Eli called, raising his hand towards the skies. Remember the purpose that binds us. Grace looked into the eyes of her neighbors, also steadfast, standing shoulder to shoulder in the face of uncertainty. She felt their faith swell, a thundering heartbeat resonating against the fear in the atmosphere. They were no longer a collection of frightened souls, they had become a community grounded in love and purpose. Just as the storm roared louder, they held hands, an unshakable pact formed in this pure moment. Thunder rumbled above, yet all they felt beneath was a powerful foundation, alive and restless. "Stand firm. We are united," Grace shouted with conviction, mirroring her heart's resolve. A resounding amen erupted from the crowd, echoing against the storm, shaking the very heavens. In that instant, something magnificent unfolded. A dazzling light broke through the storm clouds, spilling golden beams across the cobblestone path. This was not merely a reaction to their vow, it was an affirmation from the divine, radiating blessings into each heart present. Grace felt a power grip her soul, flooding her with an unshakable peace. As the wind whipped around them, her spirit soared. "This is it. This is our moment," she realized. This was their testimony, a transformational experience ignited by faith, hope, and love. The storm may rage, but they had risen together. Fear, doubt, and despair could only bow to a love so powerful it surged darkness away. "Unified, we are strong," Grace called. "We move forward. We will heal." And as they stood there, resounding their declarations, the village transformed before their eyes. The glow from their unity shone bright, even against the darkest sky. The real miracle wasn't merely the light, but the deep bond they had forged within one another. Together, they had chosen to embrace the light, and now, they would shine. Grace lifted her heart in gratitude. "Thank you, Lord. May our journey lead others to the healing we've discovered here." As the storm began to pass, a chorus of voices rose, singing not just for themselves, but for the world beyond, a world waiting for love, for connection, for community. Amen. And now, brothers and sisters in faith, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this sacred message. Comment your reactions and testimonies about the ending. And don't wait even one more second, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Only true servants of God understand the importance of uplifting one another through these actions. Let us light the way together.